Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I want to see what were the best makeup of 2020, what other YouTubers recommended, and if those were the same as mine or not. So the first YouTuber I'm going to start with, her name is Andrea. It looks like she has over 300,000 subscribers, and she has a separate video for her Ulta best videos of the best makeup of the year, and I don't agree already with the choice of KKW being the best Ulta purchase you can get right now. I think Ulta, the best thing right now they have is Hourglass, and I would recommend those. Another thing from her thumbnail, looks like she has some It Beauty and Buxom. Again, those are not brands that I personally get along with, so I don't agree with that. Now let's look at her best makeup of 2020 drugstore and high-end faves and whether I agree with that or not. So I'm just going to skip on the video. It looks like a lot of people are saying that the most of her choices are older makeup. So let's go ahead and see what she has to say about that. So let's have a look here. Okay, so mostly I'm seeing, okay, that Too Faced Pumpkin Spice palette was good. It wasn't the best makeup of 2020. I don't agree that these are by any means the best in my opinion. I think the Drunk Elephant especially not my favorite here. Don't agree with Urban Decay being in top favorites, and I'm just going to skip all this to see what are her recommendations. Looks like she has those e.l.f. Bite Size palettes and Lash Freak. Yes, I agree. Lash Freak was really good, and those e.l.f. Bite Size palettes were really good too also. As far as these primers, sure, it's a good value, but I personally prefer the Tatcha one, and that's because I'm not necessarily going for price here. The Urban Decay liners, I think they're pretty good, the double-sided ones. Let's go ahead and skip all this. Becca highlighter, it's been around for years. No issue with it, just not my favorite. Bite Beauty lip crayons have been around for many years, so I wouldn't call it the best of 2020. Yeah, it looks like then she has some Fenty Beauty. So I would so far go on to say the only thing I agree with here was the Lash Freak, because I really enjoyed it, and that Urban Decay liner. I'm not going to agree with on the pumpkin palette, because like that was a good palette, but it wasn't like the best of 2020 in my opinion by any means. So I disagree with that. Let's look at another YouTuber. All right, so the next YouTuber I want to look at is Mel Thompson. And as soon as I can get past the ads, I want to see what Mel's recommendations are for 2020 and what are her favorites. So I can't obviously just stream the video in my video. I just can skip to the parts where she talks about products. So Charlotte Tilbury, I didn't really buy a whole lot of Charlotte Tilbury this year, just because I find that the palettes have been very repetitive. So not a big fan of that. I will say that the luxury palette, I did like that. The Instant Eye Pillow Talk palette, it was really good if you didn't own any neutrals. I think it's really nice. I also went and picked up the holiday 2020 one, which I'll show you in separate videos, but I will say that it's nice that she's recommending the one that came around Valentine's Day, but she's also talking about the one that came out during the holidays, and I actually kind of like both, to be honest with you guys. But I find that I get more use out of the Pillow Talk one, because this one has way too many shimmers for me. So I am gonna skip on more of these, because again, I can't show everything in my video. I'm just trying to see if we have anything in common. Next one is the Pat McGrath palette that came out, the Divine Rose 2. I absolutely love this palette. I would say this is probably one of my favorites of 2020. Honestly, so far I'm agreeing with Mel on these choices, and I think I agree. I got as much use out of mine as well, and I actually dug pretty deep into mine, so I'll show you guys my palette. I didn't get the Wayne Goss one because I heard mixed reviews on it, so one I did pass on. And I also didn't pick up the original Wayne Goss either, just because it wasn't a thing I was interested in. I did get the Natasha Denona Love palette, and I think that was really good, but there was some inconsistencies with these colors with different batch numbers, so not my top favorite. Oh, and I absolutely loved the new Viseart, this etendu palette. This was my one of my favorite Viseart palettes to date because I absolutely love purples, and if you like purples, I highly recommend that palette. I disagree on the Too Faced palette with her, and this one, the Sydney Grace Enduring Love, I actually thought it was pretty good. I just don't get a whole lot of use out of these neutral palettes because I have too many. Of course, I did like her palette, the Tiny Marbles one, but it wasn't like my favorite palette of 2020. I didn't get any of these blushes, so I can't speak on that. And then I did get that Pat McGrath concealer. So far, I'm gonna just say that I will agree with her on the Pat McGrath palettes, and those the little mini quads of Pat McGrath. That Divine Rose 2 was definitely worth it, and the Charlotte Tilbury 2. So yeah, I will say that I agree with her on like 60% of her picks, but not all of them. So another YouTuber is Jenna Frost. Now again, I'm not going to go and show everybody's video, but just looking at her thumbnail, it looks like she has some Natasha Denona as well as the same Charlotte Tilbury that we talked about with Mel Thompson, and then she also has those Hourglass palettes. Hourglass palettes are easily my favorite of the year, any given year, but the Charlotte Tilbury, I already let you guys know, it's good. It's a good palette. It just has a lot of shimmers in it. And the Natasha Denona Glam palette, I thought that was a pretty good palette, but my favorite of hers this year was probably the Bronze palette. So I'm not entirely sure if I agree with all of her picks, but I also do agree with her on the Rare Beauty blush, because that definitely is a keeper, and I will be repurchasing many of those in the future. So let's look at another YouTuber, and I guess the next one has to be Anet. And Anet does this thing where she splits up her favorites and does like a countdown through the year, so you have to watch many videos to see her favorites of 2020. I think she just does a ranking video overall, but I generally don't have that much in common with her as far as just liking colorful palettes. I do like a colorful palette from time to time, but not every single colorful palette or every indie brand that comes out. I don't need to buy all the rainbow palettes, but that's just my preference. But I will say I do agree with the Beetlejuice collection being one of my favorites of 2020. I don't think she put that in her ranking, but again, everybody has a different preference on what they thought was the best of 2020, and I will say I loved all of the Beetlejuice collection. The entire release spoke to me, and it's something if I have time, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's something I really agree with on, is the Beetlejuice collection. I think that I agree with the ranking on the Kaleidos collection, but yeah, everything else, I'm not crazy about Glamlight. I think their ice cream palette was good, but after a while it gets repetitive, and I know Glamlight is doing some pie palettes and trying to go the neutral route, so I don't know. Again, not someone I'm probably like only gonna agree with on I don't agree with on everything. All right, so last YouTuber I'm going to talk about in this video is Angelica. And Angelica also does videos daily, and I agree with a lot of the things that she says, but not everything. She's based in Europe, so she can get only so much makeup. And let's quickly scroll through her video to see what are her best makeup of 2020 recommendations. Right off the bat, I don't recognize these products. I haven't used them, so I can't comment on them. So maybe they're great, but I haven't used them. Milk makeup is hit or miss for me. Fenty Beauty, the same. I think I've fallen out with Fenty Beauty. I'm not really getting the wow factor from them anymore. Let's move forward. Okay, these guys really like to promote Kaleidos, and I don't get it. I mean, okay, I get it. Yes, there's a lot of free makeup going around, and I'm not on board with that. And you guys know I buy my own makeup, so I'm not a fan of Kaleidos in general. So then let's talk about some other stuff. So maybe they're great, but I haven't tried them. And then there's Nabla. Nabla was good this year with the neutral palettes they came out with, and these ice cream palettes, people really loved those. And then this Juvia's Place palette, this little mauvey pink one. I don't know. I wouldn't put them as my best of 2020. This She's in Parties palette, super pigmented, and it's great if you don't own any mauvey purple palettes. But for me, I would not put that in my best of 2020. Now this Kaleidos palette, this was probably their only redeeming palette. And again, I would not order from them to have it take 2 months to come out here. You know, you guys can just buy these products from Urban Outfitters. And then there's the Natasha Denona palette that came out during Valentine's Day. We talked about this. Some of the batches were good, some of them not. Depends on what kind of batch you got. And then the cake palette I skipped on. The ice cream palette, I thought it was okay, but a little too pastel-y, and it depends if you can pull off pastel or not. Not my favorite of 2020. So far, I think of all these YouTubers, Mel Thompson is the one I agree with the most on her choices. And yeah, this one, not a great palette. I mean, it's good if you love blues, but for me, this blue palette, I had to work a lot with. So forwarding these, I haven't tried these palettes, so I can't talk about these. And I'm almost there. Or these Kaleidos again. I feel like there's a group of people that really promote Kaleidos on here, and thankfully Mel Thompson is not one of those. So I'm really glad that I agree with Mel Thompson on most of these so far. So if there's anything I missed here, she's listed them. But yeah, I don't think Colourpop would ever be in my top 10 of any year. And she's just got that one Melt Cosmetics palette and Glam Light. So yeah, I'm gonna say disagree with on a lot of things. But I will do a video of what my actual favorites of the year were, hopefully soon. And I just wanted to, connect with you guys and let me know your comments let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you guys thought. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.